You know, this is interesting. During the primaries back in 2019, there was an article in the New York Times. And I have to be careful here. This article was written by Lara Bazelon, who is one of my favorite people on earth. She's actually my cousin. Lara Bazelon and Emily Bazelon also writes progressive legal articles for the New York Times, and they're both my beloved cousins. But Lara, who was a very bright public defender, was basically saying this is not a progressive person, but it's the dishonesty that gets me. He talks about Kevin Cooper, a death row inmate whose trial was infected by racism and corruption. He sought advanced DNA testing to prove his innocence, but Miss Harris opposed it. And after the New York Times expose of the case went viral, then she reversed her opinion. Her record in wrongful conviction cases includes George Gage, an electrician with no criminal record who was charged in 1999 with sexually abusing his stepdaughter, who reported the allegation years later, and the case largely hinged on the stepdaughter's testimony, and Mr. Gage was convicted, and she hid evidence again. She fought to keep Daniel Larson in prison on a 28-year-to-life sentence for possession of a concealed weapon, even though his trial lawyer was incompetent and there was compelling evidence of his innocence. You know, prosecutors, I've known a lot of prosecutors, and I've always really liked prosecutors. I've always really gotten along with them. And most of them, you know, they're not like defense attorneys who will say and do anything to get their client off. They don't care what they say. They don't care how guilty they know he is. Doesn't matter. Prosecutors don't do that. If a prosecutor thinks you're innocent, he's supposed to just say, okay, well, justice has to be done because he represents the state. So you want him doing something different. So, you know, it really is, she really was like not just a tough prosecutor. She was a dishonest prosecutor. She was a prosecutor who defended basically her own record instead of justice. And now, talk about hypocrisy, now she's been getting on the bandwagon about defunding the police, talking about the LAPD. This is cut 26.
Many cities spend over 1/3 of their entire city budget on policing. But meanwhile, we've been defunding public schools for years in America. We've got to re-examine what we're doing with American taxpayer dollars and ask the question, are we getting the right return on our investment? Are we actually creating healthy and safe communities? And that's a legitimate conversation, and it requires a really critical evaluation. I applaud Eric Garcetti for doing what he's done.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, it's pretty amazing for a woman who hid DNA evidence, who hid evidence to keep people in prison on death row, to now suddenly say, well, the real problem is we're giving too much money to the police. It's not a question of tough on crime or not tough on crime. It's a question of absolute self-serving hypocrisy, basically. This is a bad person. The way she treated Brett Kavanaugh was ugly, ugly stuff that attempts to sucker him into a perjury trap by asking him this stupid question about whether he talked to somebody at a law firm. And when Kavanaugh said, you know, I don't know who works for that law firm, she basically accused him of avoiding, of just trying to lie. And it was a big moment. All these things in the moment were big deal to the press. But of course, they just vanished. It was completely ineffective and ineffectual on top of being dishonest. And this thing about her being a moderate, which you're going to hear and hear and hear, is just garbage. She is a radical. And when I say that she's a radical, I don't mean in her heart she's a radical. I mean she's going to jump on any train that is going to get her the power that she wants. And that train is now a radical train. She definitely wants to seize your guns, as cut 2.
We have got to have smart gun safety laws in this country. And we've got to stop buying this false choice. You can be in favor of the Second Amendment and also understand that there is no reason in a civil society that we have assault weapons around communities that can kill babies and police officers. I will give the United States Congress 100 days to get their act together and have the courage to pass reasonable gun safety laws. And if they fail to do it, then I will take executive action.
She will take executive action to cancel the Second Amendment. You know, and not only that, she wants to ban plastic straws, which are actually in the Constitution. I mean, that's, you know, the right to have plastic straws shall not be abridged. But, you know, she wants the universal health care that will destroy your right to have private insurance. She's talked about that. You know, the big thing, though, is let's play cut 21 when she talks about what the tax rate should be.
And she's promoting policies like saying that every single carbon emission in the country, every car, should be eliminated within the next 11 years, everything from a 70 to 80% tax rate. Do you agree that she could possibly, in this ideology of the socialist left, could splinter your party?
No. You know, I think that she is challenging the status quo. I think that's fantastic. I think
I think that she is introducing bold ideas that should be discussed. And I think it's good for the party. I frankly think it's good for the country. Let's look at the bold ideas.
But now let's talk about the way she thinks about money. If she's saying it's okay to talk about a 70 to 80% tax rate, look at cut 22 when she talks about what things cost.
$3 trillion a year for Medicare for all by some studies. Depending on which portions of the Green New Deal you pick to do first, that's money. That you know what the Republicans are going to say, tax and spend liberals, pie in the sky.
One of the things that I admire and respect is the measurement that is captured in 3 letters, ROI. Mm-hmm. What's the return on the investment? People in the private sector understand this really well. It's not about a cost, it's about an investment. And then the question should be, is it worth the cost in terms of the investment potential? Are we going to get back more than we put in?
This always bugs me. Obama used to make arguments like this too. And what bugs me about it is they're investing your money. They never talk about this. They always say, well, it's an investment. But an investment in what? Am I going to get a return on that investment? Am I going to get paid back when you take 70 to 80% of my money away in taxes? Am I going to get 90% back? Is it my investment or is it your investment? Why are you investing my money? Conservatives never talk about this. They always talk about the fact that socialism doesn't work, but they never talk about the fact that it's simply immoral. Why is it moral? If it's immoral for you to rob me with a gun, is it moral for you to rob me with the government? I don't understand that. I've never understood why conservatives don't make this argument more often. And part of it is because of the old fact that when you pass something into law, people immediately respect it. But why should they respect thuggery in under cover of law? All of this stuff is only important in that it points out how empty these people are. She would have said something else if something else would have gotten her in. We know this because we've seen her do it. I've just showed you her doing it, saying different things at different times, being different people at different times. Joe Biden doesn't know what he's saying. I mean, that's half a joke, but it's not really. I mean, the guy is really in no shape. That's going to be your president if Joe Biden gets elected, if they manage to somehow shove him over the finish line into office. And it's just about this philosophy. It is just about the force of this philosophy, which has now exploded into a full mental disorder. And that's the philosophy that they're trying to get into the White House because it means power for them to arrange the world the way they think it should be, something which has never, ever worked, not even once.